all you can do is try to imagine and wonder what makes four adults agree that this is okay.
All you can do is try to imagine and wonder what makes four adults agree that this is okay. That's the big question. That sentence was not pulled from a closing argument or a psychological evaluation. It came from a sitting state representative trying to explain how 16 children vanished inside a single house on Omar Street in Hampton, Ohio, not in a war zone, not in an institution, in a village with one neighbor, a railroad yard, and a dead-end road. Think of the hardware store receipt from more than a year earlier. One purchase of plumbing supplies, never followed by another visit. A normal act, then nothing. That receipt is the last proof that an adult from that house interacted with the outside world for over 12 months. 16 children, 4 adults, 1 receipt. The paperwork already knew.
Question.
The 16 children rescued from the so-called House of Horrors in Vinton County are now safe, but even Ciders family members are raising questions about how this could have happened, and they have ideas about what was going on in the family.
The 16 children rescued from what local outlets called the House of Horrors are now safe. Ranging in age from 18 months to 18 years, they were placed with foster families more than 2 weeks after law enforcement found them living in what investigators described as absolute squalor.
Mark Johnson is the state representative for Vinton County and parts of other Ohio counties. He's going to join me in a moment to discuss the very latest on the children, the case, and the investigation. Those parents of the children, Gary Ciders Jr. and Elizabeth Ciders, remain in jail, charged with 16 counts of child endangering. They've pleaded not guilty to the charges. The grandmother of the children, Christina Ciders, has also pleaded not guilty.
The parents, Gary Ciders Jr. and Elizabeth Ciders, remain in jail on 16 counts of child endangering. They pleaded not guilty. The grandmother, Christina Ciders, pleaded not guilty to the same charges. Gary Ciders Jr. is out of jail receiving treatment for a serious medical condition while his competency is evaluated. He also pleaded not guilty. 4 adults, 16 counts, 1 house.
Children were in a house, not enrolled in school, and how no one seemed to know about them, not even distant family members.
Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you are subscribed to Trial&Crime, because we do not just cover the story, we follow the evidence. No one could understand how 16 children were not enrolled in school and how no one seemed to know about them, not even distant family members.
In this house in Gallia County, when the school district filed complaints about 6 of the oldest children not attending school in the fall of 2021. Those children were considered habitually truant by the school district and were in danger of being deemed unruly children.
The first crack in that question comes from Gallia County. In the fall of 2021, the school district filed complaints about 6 of the oldest Ciders children not attending school. They were considered habitually truant and in danger of being deemed unruly under Ohio law. That is a legal designation. It triggers court involvement. It creates a file.
Children under the law. The case never proceeded because the courts couldn't find Elizabeth and Gary to serve them with the paperwork.
The case never proceeded. Not because the complaints were withdrawn. Not because the family resolved the issue. The case died because the courts could not find Elizabeth and Gary Ciders Jr. to serve them with the paperwork. Let that sit for a moment. The state had identified 6 children missing from school, the state had opened a legal matter, and the state could not locate the family. The paperwork already knew.
A man rehabbing that house in Cheshire actually told ABC 6 News in Columbus that the house was in bad shape. He told the outlet that he found a lot of kids' clothes in the attic, as if someone was living in it, and the entire house had urine.
A man later rehabbing the Ciders house in Cheshire told a Columbus News outlet that he found children's clothes in the attic as if someone was living there. He said the entire house had urine and human and pet feces in it. He called it rough. That is not a legal term. That is the word of someone who had to clean what was left behind.
And in 2020 or 2021, it appears the family made the move to Vinton County. Gary and Elizabeth lived in this house on Main Street until they moved into the house on Omar Street, where investigators said they found the 16 children living in squalor on June 30th.
Records show the Ciders had at least 4 prior addresses in Gallia County alone. Then around 2020 or 2021, the family moved to Vinton County. They lived on Main Street before moving to the house on Omar Street, where investigators found the 16 children on June 30th. 4 addresses, 2 counties, 1 pattern of movement away from contact.
For 40 years, I've never seen anything like this. This is to have kids that would be off the radar. A child off the radar is troubling enough. 16 kids in one family in one household. to be off the radar is
At a hearing this week, a state official said, "For 40 years, I've never seen anything like this. A child off the radar is terrible enough. 16 kids in one family in one household to be off the radar is something I've just not seen. That is not an explanation. That is a confession of systemic blindness."
General said the Ciders were actually hiding the children. The question is, how could something like this happen? And can it be prevented from happening again?
money is certainly a problem, but it's not necessarily the problem. And I think we are asking you for an investment. And we need to ensure those investments are working. I think in this day and age, certainly we can do a better job with communications. We can do that through electronic communications.
The Attorney General said the Ciders were actually hiding the children. That framing changes the question. It stops being about what the state missed and starts being about what the family did. And yet the question remains, how does a family with 16 children simply drop out of every database, every school roster, every safety net? What if the system is not broken? What if it was never designed to look for people who do not ask for help?
Representative Mark Johnson, he represents in the Ohio legislature the district that covers all of Vinton County. So, Representative Johnson, thank you so much for joining me.
Not a problem. I'm happy to be here.
This is a horrible case. I wish we were talking about something more joyful, a little happier.
Representative Mark Johnson represents the district covering all of Vinton County. When asked whether the children were safe in foster care, he said, "Thank goodness these 16 children are safe and they have been indeed placed in foster care." Is that your understanding? His answer was one word, correct?
Now, and my only assumption is they've never lived anywhere other than this home in Hampton, which is on a dead-end road with only one other home on the other side of them. There's woods and foliage all around this home, and then in front of the house is a railroad yard. And so it was somewhat very secluded.
Johnson described the house on Omar Street as being on a dead-end road with only one other home beside it. Woods and foliage all around, in front of the house, a railroad yard. The one neighbor said, "I don't recall seeing a child." That is the physical layout. A dead end, a railroad yard, a neighbor who never saw a single one of 16 children.
Store, he said, Gary Jr. had been in there one time, bought some plumbing. That was well over a year ago. And he said, other than that, we never seen any of them. I'm told that they went to the Dollar General, and when they did.
Johnson said Gary Ciders Jr. entered a local hardware store one time, more than a year before the rescue, and bought plumbing supplies. After that, nothing. He said the family went to Dollar General only after 9:30 at night, close to dusk or after dark. As the last customers there, 16 children, no school, no neighbors, no daylight.
I questioned Mr. Potts and myself. I said, did anybody drop the ball or anybody not doing their jobs? And the answer was no. You know, we can't really figure this out, why somebody with 16 children didn't ask for help. To my knowledge, they didn't ask.
When Johnson questioned the head of the Department of Children and Youth directly, asking if anyone dropped the ball, the answer was no. Then came the more troubling admission. We can't really figure this out, why somebody with 16 children didn't ask for help. To my knowledge, they didn't ask for SNAP benefits or any type of public assistance. That is the official position. No one failed. The family simply refused to ask.
Small county, it has an $8 million operating budget. This is not a wealthy county by any stretch of the imagination. However, I went down there and I thought it was like a cute little place, the village of Hampton. Most of the houses are kept up. There are some that aren't.
But Johnson also acknowledged the financial reality. Vinton County has an $8 million operating budget. It is the least populous county in Ohio. He said what happened on Omar Street is not the norm there. The village of Hampton is small. Most houses are kept up. This one was not.
Job. Can we do better as far as communication between counties? I think that's something we need to look at. If we knew we had a truancy problem in Gallia County, did that get passed on to Jackson, Pike, and Vinton County? I don't know. That's some low-hanging fruit that the state.
Then Johnson landed on the structural gap that no press conference had addressed. If we knew we had a truancy problem in Gallia County, did that get passed on to Jackson, Pike, and Vinton County? I don't know. That's some low-hanging fruit that the state needs to address, is how better we can communicate. Low-hanging fruit. That is the phrase a sitting lawmaker used to describe the failure to track 6 children who later became 16 missing children. The paperwork already knew?
Well, it's a confounding case. I know you've been around a while. We hear about child neglect cases, Representative Johnson, but, kids being kept in the house like this, if this allegation is indeed true that they weren't allowed outside, the kids are in bad shape, they were given phones to hang out on social media, the older ones, they're not going to school.
When the interviewer pressed Johnson on the disturbing details, children kept inside, not allowed outside, older ones given phones but not enrolled in school. He acknowledged the core question, why did nobody ask for help? He said the family members communicated through social media. That was their only thread to the outside, not a teacher, not a doctor, not a caseworker, a screen.
Elizabeth and Christina Ciders remain in jail. They have not been able to post bail. They've all pleaded not guilty. Christina Ciders' attorney is actually asking for a non-dissemination order to limit what can be said or released by officials.
Gary Ciders Jr., Elizabeth Ciders, and Christina Ciders remain in jail. They have not posted bail. Christina Ciders' attorney is asking for a non-dissemination order to limit what officials can release. A gag order in Gary Jr.'s case is being challenged at the Ohio Supreme Court. The legal machinery is now moving. It just took 16 children living in squalor to start it.
More visits when somebody does file a complaint, more checks. Until somebody files a complaint, Children's Services is not aware of anything, and that's an issue. And when you isolate yourself and come out at dark, nobody, not even your neighbors, knows you have children. I don't know.
Johnson ended with the uncomfortable truth buried inside a policy answer. Until somebody files a complaint, Children's Services is not aware of anything, and that's an issue. When you isolate yourself and come out at dark, nobody, not even your neighbors, knows you have children. He then asked a question that should haunt every oversight committee in Ohio. I don't know how anyone could expect a government service to deal with a case similar to this.
About the case, a gag order issued in Gary Jr.'s case is being challenged at the Ohio Supreme Court. And we're of course going to keep an eye on this case. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me or drop them in the comments. That's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.
The full record is still sealed, but one document remains public: the truancy complaint filed by the Gallia County School District in the fall of 2021. Go find it. Read what the school knew. Then ask yourself one question in the comments. If that complaint had been served, would 16 children have ever ended up on Omar Street? If you believe this channel does the work that matters, like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications for Trial Crime.